Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe, Mary Kay Cabot with you. A Hey Mary Kay edition of the podcast here on a Monday. It's about 5:25 when we're recording this. Questions coming from our Football Insider subscribers, cleveland.com/Browns. The blue banners at the top of the page. And of course, Mary Kay, as you can imagine, many of our questions having to do with Shedeur Sanders, who's on track to start on Sunday against the Raiders. Make his first career start. Of course, he made his debut as we're recording this less than 24 hours ago for the Browns, replacing Dillon Gabriel, who is in the concussion protocol. This is one of the things that there's a bunch of different directions that our texters went with these questions, but I want to start here from Alex from Chesapeake, Virginia. And this has something to do a little bit with what you asked Kevin Stefanski today. One of the questions you asked him, and of course he didn't have much to add in regards to answering this, but he says, "Hey Mary Kay, do you believe Shedeur Sanders could run away with the starting quarterback job and allow the Browns to draft at key positions such as wide receiver and offensive line?"
I suppose anything can happen, but I still think he has a long way to go. And I think that we saw that when he went in there and played against the Ravens. I think he's got a long on-ramp. He's got to come up that learning curve, and he's got to really be able to identify defenses, go through those reads very quickly, get the ball out fast, and make sure that he's not retreating and taking sacks. Those were some of the problems and issues that he had in college, and he was able to make up for it at that level. But at this level, it's going to be a lot harder. Teams are going to do whatever they can to confuse him, make him hold the ball, and try to sack him. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the NFL, and so you've got to be able to do those other things really quickly and really, really well. If he can do all that, then I suppose he does have a chance. He does have some really, really great physical traits. He's got really nice elite arm talent. And so I think there is some potential there, and I believe that there's something worth developing and working with. But I still think, I really believe in my heart of hearts that the Browns will draft a quarterback in the first round of the 2026 draft with one or both of those draft picks.
Yeah, and I think, again, we talked about this after the game a little bit, but Sunday was sort of, first of all, it's a difficult position for any quarterback to be in, to come in and have to play like that, but especially Shedeur Sanders, who, going all the way back to the spring, we've known that they are slow playing it with him. And, he was off working by himself a lot in the spring and the summer. And, everything we were watching was telling us that, yes, there's talent, yes, there's potential, but he's also a long ways from realizing that on an NFL field on Sundays. And I think we saw that Sunday afternoon. Now, we'll get into this a little bit too. Will it change? Will it look better with a week of practice? Will it look better with a game plan designed for him? I would hope so. But I think what we saw on Sunday was kind of why they've been so hesitant maybe to throw him out there, and why they've been so hesitant to just say, yeah, let's see what Shedeur can do right now. And that's why I think just this idea of, as our question asker Alex phrases it, running away with the starting job, I don't necessarily see that happening, but he's at least going to have an opportunity to make his case, and it will start this week with that week of preparation and kind of, can you make this look better against a Raiders team that isn't as good as the Ravens?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think what's going to need to happen is Shedeur Sanders and Tommy Rees are going to have to put their heads together, and they're going to have to come up with things that Shedeur feels really good about, things he likes to run and wants to run. Now, sometimes what you like to run and what you think are going to work for you, that might be different than what the offensive coordinator sees for you. So Shedeur is going to have to be really open-minded about what Tommy thinks is going to be best for him, and maybe remove himself a little tiny bit from that process because he might get wide-eyed and think that he's capable of more things than he actually is at this point. I think they're going to have to pare down the scheme a little bit, dial it back. I don't think he's going to have as much on his plate as Dillon Gabriel did, because he was behind him. He started out behind him, and he's been narrowing that gap a little bit, but he still is working his way up that learning curve. So I think they're going to have to simplify it for him a little bit. They might even have to simplify some of the terminology, and they've got to get him playing fast and confidently. because he's got to get that ball out. You can't keep retreating. You can't keep getting sacked. You're not going to be able to function. You can't be almost turning the ball over on every single drive. That can't happen. Now, having said all that, I really do think that with a week of practice and with a game plan just for him, that it's going to be better than coming in cold with Dillon Gabriel's game plan that you did not touch throughout the week, not even one time. So I do think it's going to get better. They're going to work it and work it and work it. And they're going to work on their red zone package and their third down package and all of these things. And they're going to play to his strengths, and they're going to make him feel as good and comfortable as he possibly can. So that will be the game plan.
So let's keep going through some of these Shedeur questions. This comes from Mike Parker in Chester, Maryland. Hey, Mary Kate, did you see anything positive about Sanders' play on Sunday, and could he be more effective if Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees are able to develop a game plan to play to his strengths and keep him from getting into situations that play to his weaknesses?
Yes, I absolutely think that if they have an opportunity to find some outlet passes for him and some ways that he can get rid of the ball really quickly, I think that's going to be important. They're going to have to do that. We don't know yet what the tackle situation is going to be like. And if he still has two backup tackles in the game, that's not ideal when you have basically an immobile quarterback, not immobile, but not a dual threat running quarterback that you know can run out of trouble at any given moment. So we have to see what's going to happen with the tackles. But I think that if they give him some things to do and some people to do it with that he feels really good about, then he can have success. And again, it's going to look a little bit different than what we've seen before. It's going to look different than some of the rollouts and the bootlegs and the called runs and things like that we have seen with Dillon. His game is predicated upon movement, and Shedeur's is not that. So he's going to have to be able to drop back there, survey the land, go through his progressions as quickly as he possibly can, and try to make some plays. He made a couple. I did see a couple of positive things. I thought the fan-in pass was really nice. Now, I don't think that they were pressuring him as much. I think they backed off of him and were not giving him the business on that 2-minute drill at the end because I don't think they felt they had to worry about him. And lo and behold, he almost tied or won the football game because they just kind of were letting him go a little bit and feeling like they didn't have to really worry about him winning the game for them with his arm. But yeah, I think it's going to be much better than what we saw on Sunday. And I think he's going to be really excited about the game plan that they give him.
Yeah, and I think, the fan throw, I had a chance to go back and I watched his series today, and the fan and throw was probably his best throw. Obviously, there was a throw to Larvadan that was a nice throw, but the fan and throw was one where it was protected. He had time, and he was able to, they were able to let the route develop, and he was able to deliver it. The issues, though, again, were it was, even when the pocket was clean, like his first move was sort of to step backwards. And, you see some of the footwork issues still, and I'm certainly not a quarterback guru, but it seems like there's some footwork issues. It seems like, even on the scrambles, those were plays where he was almost scrambling to his own detriment. Like he was just sort of, oh, no, here's pressure, I'm going to run. And that's just not his game. Like he's got to go through reads and deliver the football. And so I think really the emphasis this week has to be on, kind of what you were getting to there is making that first read and that second read really easy, because that's where the ball's either going to go to one of those or he's going to bail. And so if you can make that first read and that second read really easy, and that gets hard when a defense adjusts and they start taking that stuff away. But I think that's the first point of emphasis in the passing game. Obviously, if you can run the ball, that'll help a ton. But as far as throwing goes, give him quick, easy first, second reads and see if you can get something going. The script is going to be really interesting Sunday to see sort of what they cook up in that first 15 for him.
Absolutely. And we've heard him talk over and over and over again about how he has a comfort level with his hungry dog guys. And what we mean by that is Shedeur, in addition to working on a separate field quite often in practice, where he throws to a lot of the practice squad guys and the younger guys, they also stick around for a hungry dog practice after the session where they do some of their own things, just those younger guys. And he's gotten a really nice chemistry down with Gage Larvadain, which is probably why they dialed up that end zone pass to Gage, because that is a comfort level for Shedeur. That is somebody that he really likes to throw the ball to, and they were probably giving him something that they felt would really work, something that they have probably seen happen over and over and over again in practice. So I think he will try to get some of his guys out there. He's worked with Caden Davis. Again, he's worked with Gage a lot. He's worked with a number of these guys, but he also has to get some kind of chemistry and timing down with Jerry Jeudy, with Cedric Tillman, with David Njoku, and with Harold Fannin. He's got to get those guys rolling, and he has to do that. We know that he has not taken first team reps in practice. It's been a big, huge controversy, and I, for one, am of the mind that I feel like they should have gotten him just some of those snaps somewhere. They should have stolen a few of those reps here and there, just in the event that he was going to have to go into a football game. I predicted to you guys that Shedeur Sanders was going to play against the Ravens, and my guess was that Dylan was going to end up in the medical tent with having his head checked. I just had a feeling. These guys have been hitting the quarterback over and over and over and over again. And I thought it was going to happen in this game where something like that was going to take place. So I really do think that, even though we all know that QB2s don't get very many first team reps, in this case, because it's such a unique situation, I think they should have given a few to Shedeur. And if they weren't going to do that, then in my opinion, don't make him the backup. Make Bailey Zappi the backup and wait for Shedeur to get in the football game when he's ready to play, with a game plan designed for him and after he has taken some first team reps. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. But they have their own approach to how they want to do this. We see that it didn't necessarily work out very well yesterday, but maybe the method to their madness will show up in a better way on Sunday in Vegas.
Yeah, I think two things on that, and I want to get into Repsgate here, because it has been like the social media topic and the topic of the last 2 days with everything that's happened here. But to the point of getting on the same page with these first team guys, like, it's great that he's developed this connection with Gage Larvadain and Caden Davis and all these guys, but like, there's also a reason those guys are not starters. And if you're going to go anywhere, it's got to be with Jerry Jeudy and Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins and Ced Tillman. Like, there's a reason those guys are the starters, and those guys are the number ones. So it's got to be with those guys. As far as the reps, kind of as you were talking about that, and you've been on this, make Bailey Zappi the backup train for a while. This is almost more of obviously Kevin Stefanski is taking a lot of the blame, but this is more of a roster construction issue, for the reason I think you were getting to. Like, we know in the NFL, there just aren't reps for we were talking about this with Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett. Like, when Deshaun came off that suspension, it's like there still aren't going to be a ton of reps for him, just because Jacoby's got to get ready to play a football game until Deshaun was ready to actually come back. So, because remember, Deshaun came back he was able to practice before the suspension was lifted. So there were like 3 weeks there where he was able to practice. But they set up this situation where they have two rookies, neither of whom are ready to be starters in the NFL. So they both need as many reps as they can get. But the reality of the NFL is there just aren't enough reps to go around. So I think this is more, to your point with Zappi and having some sort of veteran there to be the backup, somebody who could handle going through a week without getting reps and be able to come in and play. I think this is more a roster construction issue than a coaching issue. And not to completely absolve Kevin. Yeah, could you get Shedeur 5 reps with the first team? Sure. But I don't know how much 5 reps or 15 reps a week are going to change what happened yesterday.
It's so tough to say. It really, really is hard to say how that would have worked out. Like I said, I just have different ideas of how I would be handling this situation. And I have seen a lot in my 30 plus years of covering this team. So I do have some institutional knowledge about what might work and what might not work. I've seen a lot. And I think sometimes you can stray from the norm to do what is going to give you the most bang for your buck. And I think this is such a unique situation with the two rookies that Shedeur needed to just take a few snaps from Ethan Posich and just throw the ball to Jerry Jeudy a little bit here and there. And he just never got the chance to do that. And like I said, I do understand how this works. I've been around this game for a very long time, and we see all the backup quarterbacks coming out of the woodwork on social media today saying we don't get reps, and I do get that. But even when Joe Flacco was starting, Dylan Gabriel got a few reps. Now, they were able to spare some of those because an 18-year veteran can do without some of those, and they didn't feel like Dylan could do without any of his. But then don't have Shedeur be your backup. That's just how I feel about it. I understand those reps are not readily available and plentiful, but then go ahead and have Bailey as your backup and don't be trying to press Shedeur into service and basically set him up in a situation where it's going to be really, really difficult for him to succeed.
Yeah, I think we're kind of saying the same thing, right? Like,
right.
You constructed this in a way where, again, you can take reps from Joe Flacco because he knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. But just like Shedeur Sanders needs every rep he can get, and then there aren't many, Dylan needs every rep he can get, right? So, like, they just sort of set this up. We went from having this 4-way quarterback competition where these guys were going to come along slowly to, well, here we are. Shedeur Sanders is starting in Vegas, and for the first time, he's going to get a bunch of first-team reps. I just... For a team that I think, at least likes people to think that they are planning ahead and they're really smart with these things, sometimes these quarterback decisions they've made with these young quarterbacks, it's been really confusing and it's put them in really bad positions.
Well, it comes back to, in my mind, and it's funny to think that this one event could have this ripple effect on your whole quarterback room. But lo and behold, Kenny Pickett's hamstring injury in training camp just set off this chain reaction of events that led to Joe Flacco being pressed into service, which they didn't really want to do or intend to do. That was supposed to be Kenny Pickett, and then at some point, Dylan Gabriel. But Kenny was gone. They'll see him as the backup in Las Vegas this weekend on Sunday in Vegas. And so they traded him there. Then Joe Flacco gets pressed into service, and for various reasons, that just didn't work out for him here. That did not work out. And so they went to Dylan much faster than they intended to. As you mentioned, he probably really wasn't ready yet either. These things ideally would have happened in the second half of the season. They should have gotten Dylan maybe 3-4 starts in the second half of the season, and maybe Shedeur 3 starts in the second half of the season. They weren't supposed to be turning this thing over in week 4, but that's how it went. And now they find themselves in a position where they have to start Shedeur Sanders in Las Vegas when we all know he's probably not really ready yet, right? He's probably not really ready yet. So we'll have to see what they can come up with. If they're not going to respect what he can do, then they're going to be able to take away Quinshon Judkins, because that's what the Ravens were going to do. And that's what they even said. Hey, we knew that he wasn't going to go deep, and we didn't have to worry about that. We knew we had to take away the run and the short passes. And you just can't compress the field like that. You just can't do that. You have to be able to stretch the field. So we'll see what they can come up with. Maybe because he does have his elite accuracy, they can find a way to make sure that he can throw the ball downfield some and have it be successful. So, let's see what happens. I wish we could watch practice this week. It would really be so fun to watch this, but we don't have that luxury. But I do think that he's going to have to find his rhythm with Jerry and with Sed. Now, having said that, he does throw a very catchable ball, and there is really something to be said for throwing a catchable ball. People used to talk about Jacoby Brissett like that, right? They loved to catch that ball from him because he just made it so easy. And I think that Deshaun is like that. I mean, Deshaun, that's a whole nother story. And I think that,
yeah, right.
yes, that Shedeur can do that. I think he throws a very, very catchable football. It is one of his superpowers.
So that's a good lead into this question from Paul Warner in Cuyahoga Falls. Hey, Mary Kay, Shedeur's debut was rocky at best, but I keep thinking about a pair of his throws, too. We've talked about the deep ball to Fannin on the last drive, and the pass to Gage Larvidan that was knocked away a couple of plays later. We haven't seen throws like that since Flacco was traded away, although it's clear that Dillon is ahead of Shedeur in terms of his preparation. Doesn't it benefit the Browns greatly in the long term to have Shedeur play the rest of the season to catch up, given his potential as a long-term starter? And this is one of those things where, like those throws, for everything bad that Shedeur did, and that's all part of the package, those throws weren't happening consistently enough with Dillon Gabriel. And that's like the upside. That's like the ceiling of Shedeur Sanders. And that's what's so enticing about him. And that's why if you can get all that other stuff cleaned up, it's so interesting. Is that stuff worth enough to kind of keep kind of looking at him and keep kind of putting up with some of the bad?
I don't know. Because if you're going to go out there and be a gunslinger and have more confidence in your ability than you really deserve to have in yourself right now on a pro level, then you're going to be turning the ball over a lot, and they cannot have that. That is the one thing that will earn him a trip to the bench, even if they intended to start him a bunch of games, I think, is if he's just turning that ball over time and time again. And he easily, on his 6 possessions, could have turned it over at least one other time because Kyle Hamilton dropped an interception. So there was that. And then he was strip sacked and Wyatt Teller fell on the loose ball. So he only turned it over once, but he could have turned it over on 50% of his possessions. And that is not going to fly with Kevin Stefanski. It just isn't going to. So he's going to have to make sure that he plays within himself and doesn't think that he can complete every single pass that he sees out there. And that's what I think with him, that he's going to be almost overconfident. Now, with Dillon Gabriel, he didn't have enough confidence in himself to take some of those shots and to look downfield and say, yes, I've got this. I'm going to take this chance. I'm going to take this shot, and I'm going to complete this ball to Jerry or Harold or whoever. He didn't do it enough, but I have a tendency to think that Shedeur might take too many chances and think that he's got this. And I don't think he's got this yet. So he's going to have to manage the game well. That's what Dillon was supposed to be able to do, manage the game very well. Shedeur has to show that he can manage the game well, play within himself, and not start to press and try to do too much and run around and retreat and throw interceptions and get strip sacked. You know what I mean? Like he's got to play under control. He has to play under control. So they have to give him a number of things that he really feels good about, and then he's going to have to stay within the framework of what they come up with for him. And Tommy's very bright. Some say brilliant, offensive savant. I think he should be able to come up with some things and a game plan that can maximize Shedeur Sanders' strengths. And I think with Tillman back out there, I thought he made some nice plays. I do think that they have enough talent on the football team that there should be some completions out there for Shedeur, and they should be able to function, I think, but we don't know.
It's kind of the Jameis Winston problem, right? Like it's kind of the Jameis, makes great throws, right? He's a guy that I don't think Shedeur is as talented as just the raw talent as Jameis Winston. I mean, Jameis Winston was the number 1 pick in the draft, but it's that sort of same problem, right? Like the guy's going to make some throws that wow you, and of course he's got a rocket arm, and he's going to put up ridiculous numbers like we saw in Denver last year, throw for 300 yards, but then he's also going to turn the ball over a bunch. Like you just know what you're getting with Jameis Winston, and you can only sustain that stuff for so long. And so, yeah, maybe Shedeur is going to make a couple throws like we saw to Fannin and to Gage. But if he's taking a bunch of sacks and he's not going through his progressions like he's supposed to, and he's not making the right reads, if he's bailing on pockets and all of that, then those 1 or 2 throws a game, they aren't going to be worth it. But again, that's also why he's so intriguing, because if you can just hit, it's the Jameis problem. It's why Jameis is going to continue to have a long career, and teams are going to keep bringing him in. If you can just fix that one thing or those 2 or 3 things and fix those, and all the good plays happen too, you got something there. I don't know if that stuff can be fixed or not, but he's going to make it. he's going to make probably 2, maybe 3 throws on Sunday. Whether he actually plays well for 60 minutes or not, he's going to make 2 or 3 throws that you're going to be like, wow, that was awesome.
Yes, and that is what he has been doing in practice. I've been hearing about that. I've been hearing that when he's running the scout team, that he is making some wow plays. I tried to get Myles Garrett to share a little bit about that yesterday in the press conference, but he didn't want to go there. But Devin Bush kind of told us a little bit today that, yes, he does do some of that. And I think that there will be other defensive guys that will share with us a little bit and give us a little bit of insight into how Shedeur has been making some of these plays in practice. I've heard there are times where he'll squeeze it in there, and we've seen it ourselves before we got kicked out of practice once the regular season started. But he can squeeze the ball into very tight windows. And I've talked about this many, many times before. He can vary his ball speed. He can vary his arm angles. He can lift it over a defender right at the last second. He can do all those things when he has time, but we don't know if he's going to have time to throw a beautiful pass over a linebacker's head. We just don't know if he's going to have that, right? But the other thing I wanted to bring up here at this point, which I think it fits here, is the fact that I did ask Kevin Stefanski about the fact after the game, he did say Dillon Gabriel would be the starter if he were able to clear the concussion protocol. But that came with a caveat, and that was, we know what it takes to get through the concussion protocol. And it seemed even last night that he was basically saying it's unrealistic, probably not happening. So today I followed up on that and I asked him, when you said that Dillon would start if cleared, does this mean in perpetuity, or was this just for the Raiders game, right? Does that mean that if Shedeur Sanders goes out and plays well versus the Raiders, does he earn himself another start? And I think you have to take it game by game. And Kevin pretty much confirmed that today, I think. He said, we're not looking beyond this. And in my mind, that means, okay, in some perfect world, if Dillon were cleared and could start, and they knew that when they came in on Monday that he was going to be totally fine by Wednesday to go out there and practice, then Dillon starts the game. But I think at this point, you have to give Shedeur Sanders a chance to go out there and hang on to the starting job for a little bit. And it doesn't mean that you can't go back to Dillon at some point. You might find out that Shedeur Sanders isn't ready, that he's not really ready for this opportunity. And he goes out and he starts a few games and he starts slinging it all over the yard and throwing picks and stuff like that. It's perfectly fine to be able to go back to Dillon Gabriel at that point. He's not going to be in there now because he has a concussion. It doesn't mean that they can't mix and match a little bit, and they shouldn't be afraid to do that. Ideally, you would want continuity. Let a player build on what he did the week before. Let them start for 3, 4, 5, 6 games, right? But they just might not have that luxury. They might not have that luxury. And I wrote a story today saying that Deshaun Watson, his practice window isn't going to be open. And I don't really think they want to play Deshaun Watson this season. I've been digging around on that. And I think that the reigning sentiment on that situation right now is, why would we want to throw him out there when he will only have had about 3 weeks of practice? And it's been so long since he's actually played football. So I think they want to err on the side of caution and not put him at risk. He costs a lot of money. He's on the cap for $80 million next year. So I think that they would probably rather err on the side of caution and give him a little bit more time before they throw him out on the practice field.
Yeah, and then just as the record continues to spiral, it's like you do kind of reach the okay, what would the point be? Because you want to get a look at these two young quarterbacks, and I think to the point of keeping Shedeur out there. I mean, look, this is a difficult league. The greatest quarterback of all time got his opportunity because Drew Bledsoe got hurt. So like that happens in this league sometimes. And if Shedeur goes out on Sunday, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but if he shows you like, okay, there's something there, like this week of prep helped, he looked better than he did. And okay, let him earn that opportunity. If he plays well enough, all right, you get to start against the 49ers now. Like, and if he continues to play well, you get to start against the Titans. Like, it's not like Dillon Gabriel was playing so well that he just should get to be the starter by default. If Shedeur, and this is a big if he plays well enough on Sunday to merit starting against the 49ers, even if Dillon Gabriel's healthy, then he should do it. And, you've got to ride it, because maybe he will show you something if you put him out there for 3-4 weeks in a row. Now, if he's bad on Sunday and Dylan Gabriel clears the protocol and you want to go back to Dylan, that's fine. But I view this as an opportunity for Shedeur Sanders to earn the next start regardless of if Dylan is healthy or not.
Yes, absolutely. 100% how I would handle it. And I suspect that's how they will handle it as well. I think that if he does go out there and perform well and put some points on the board and elevate the passing game and get the wide receivers involved in this football game with his elite accuracy that he possesses, then I think he earns another start. If they don't do that, then I don't know. Then I don't know what's going on. That seems to make the most sense to me. Again, it doesn't mean that you can't get a couple of more starts out of Dylan Gabriel at some point. Maybe it will make sense to do that. Maybe it's later on in the season and he starts the last couple of games or something. But this just might be the time to let Shedeur cook a little bit and see what he can do.
Okay, so let's get to this question. It's about the quarterbacks and it's about the head coach. This comes from Tom in Middlebury, Connecticut. Hey, Mary Kay, given the quarterback situation this year, how do you get an accurate assessment of Kevin Stefanski and the offensive coaching staff?
You can't. You really can't. I mean, it reminds me of, and this is it's a whole different ball game, but it reminds me of Hugh Jackson in the 1 in 31 years. I mean, you really couldn't get a good read and handle on the coaching staff when you don't have a quarterback or you don't have a winning quarterback or a good quarterback. There are very few coaches in the NFL that can make absolutely something out of nothing. And I think it's really hard to get a handle on the job that Kevin Stefanski is doing this year with what he's got to work with. It's such a young football team. I mean, I think there are so many things, especially defensively, but even some things offensively, to get excited about for the future. And in some ways I look at it and I'm like, he absolutely deserves another chance to come back here and coach this football team when they have their quarterback of the future. I don't know if he's going to get that chance. I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to show a lot, I think, in these last 7 games for Jimmy Haslam to want to maintain the status quo and move forward with everyone. But I think they should give it some really good, hard thought to doing that because, I mean, who could win with this quarterback situation right now? It's very, very, very difficult. And I don't know that it's going to get any better in the final 7 games of the season.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because, if we want to get really bleak here, it seems like, and you've said this, they're probably going to pick their franchise quarterback in the first round of the draft this year. But what if that guy's not there? Like, what if they don't, for some reason, end up in a spot where they can get, what if this ends up being a draft where, Lenore Sellers goes back and Dante Moore goes back and all these guys you're basically picking between Fernando Mendoza, who a lot of people like, and maybe that's the guy they'd want, and Ty Simpson, who is not going to have started very many games. There's going to be some real risk there with him, as good as he's looked. What if a bunch of those guys go back and the Browns end up with like the 5th pick in the draft and they just aren't able to maneuver up high enough to get Mendoza or somebody like that? And now you're coming back with, say, a veteran quarterback. Or, I do think there's a scenario where maybe that quarterback of the future doesn't end up here for some reason in this draft, depending on who goes back and where they end up in the draft. Now, right now, I think they're sitting at 2. I'm not sure. They have the second best chance to get the number 1 overall pick. That's what I saw today. So it could play out perfectly in their favor. But I don't know. Like, what if he doesn't get that guy and then you just kind of keep extending this and keep extending this? This is going to be a really hard decision for the Haslams after this season, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. It really is, because you've had, this regime, they have been scouting heavily these quarterbacks. So, that's another reason why I don't see them making a change with Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry's been out scouring the nation for the next quarterback. So I just don't see that happening. But I also have kind of been hearing that more of these quarterbacks might come out than it seems like right now. And so that would be good news for the Browns because they need as many of them to come out as possible. And they need to get their hands on the one that they really, really like. And they don't want to have to obviously give up the farm to do it, but they do have the 2 first-round picks. And if they see a guy there that they really, really like, they'll trade up to get him. That's why they have this ammunition. So it's all about the quarterback in 2026. And I think, I think they're coming to the conclusion that they don't have that guy on their roster right now. I mean, they still need more data points, but I'm pretty sure they're taking a quarterback in 2026.
And I do think, just to play devil's advocate with that, I do think if for some reason they didn't, and they just sort of spent the offseason building up the roster, seeing how that 27 class shakes out, adding a veteran, maybe they bring back Kenny Pickett, but adding one of these scrap heap veterans that we've seen have had success when they land in the right system. In theory, Kevin should be, based on what we've seen with what he did with Baker Mayfield, what he did with Joe Flacco, at least, he should be able to, if they fix the O-line, if they get some weapons at receiver, he should be able to run a functional offense next year, even if this class doesn't shake out the way it's supposed to, and maybe they have to wait a little bit longer to draft a young guy to be their long-term quarterback.
It's so hard to say because I can't imagine who that bridge quarterback would be, and I just can't imagine who that would be. Other teams seem to be able to find
it's
those
going to be
guys.
somebody uninspiring, right? It's going to be like the Colts fans were like, really? I'm sure they were not ecstatic when Daniel Jones showed up. Like, whoever it is, it's going to be someone uninspiring, and you just got to hope you catch lightning in a bottle if it ends up going that route.
Exactly. It's happened a lot. It's happened a lot over the past few years, and they haven't been able to get in on that party to this point yet. I think they thought that maybe they were in on it with Kenny Pickett. But if they thought that, then why would you trade him away? Just hang on. Just put a little knot at the end of your rope and hang on there, right? But yeah, we'll have to see if there's anybody else like that floating around out there in the event that they need that quarterback. And I think that's another reason why they want to keep giving Dylan and Shedeur opportunities, is because they want to figure out what their quarterback room in 2026 is going to look like. And Deshaun is going to be around next year. And I wrote that in my insider on Sunday. Deshaun's going to be on the football team in 2026. So for everyone that wants this to be over after this year, I don't think that's happening. I think, barring some unforeseen circumstance, he is going to be on the roster and still be the veteran presence in the room for those younger guys. So I don't know. Maybe he'll get in and start some games for them.
Well, just to your point, as far as not knowing who it would be, I did just do a Google search of Mac Jones' contract status. So
there you go.
I think he's under contract for next year, but I don't know, maybe one of those day 3 picks. You could go get yourself a Mac Jones from the 49ers, something like that.
Yes,
who knows?
There you go. That's the kind of guy they would have to find, just somebody that everybody else gave up on, and that you can reclaim that quarterback and turn him into one of these next Sam Darnolds or something like that.
All right. When we start talking about Mac Jones in November, it's time to end the podcast. That'll do it for this Hey Mary Kay edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Those questions came from our Football Insider subscribers, cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page to get involved with that. Find our socials on Instagram, we're Orange and Brown Talk. On Twitter, we're Orange Brown Talk. And, of course, our YouTube channel, Cleveland Browns, on cleveland.com. You can catch most of our pods on our YouTube channel as well. Mary Kay, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds great.